If you go to the TFT website and you go to the patch notes, to my surprise, I find Syndra on the cover here. So we're going to go over all the changes of what's going on in the new patch 14.16. I'm going to go over all my thoughts on it, and I'm going to give you a little insight on how it's going to affect the meta. But as a summary, we have right here, we have Blaster, Frost, Scholar, Warrior, all getting buffs as the traits. Seraphine, Soraka, Ahri, Galio, Katarina, Ryze, Briar, and Shyvana getting buffs as champions. And there are also 22 augments that are being buffed. So Blaster, Frost, I actually love this comp so much, but they're going to be buffing it, I believe, in the late Blasters. Frost, we're going to have to find out what they're doing later. Scholar, Ryze always felt a bit weak in the previous patch. Warrior, the deep warriors feel really bad, but I think 2 Warrior is perfectly fine. Seraphine and Soraka, god, these units are so awful right now. I got a free Seraphine 3-star. Decent items on her, still went 8th. These units are unrerollable in the previous patch, but hopefully these buffs bring them back into the meta. Ahri is a bit situational. Galio, I thought he was already strong, but we'll have to see what they do. Katarina, awful, needs the buff. Ryze, same thing. Briar, same thing. And Shyvana, sometimes Shyvana is really good in the early game, but in the late game, she's probably one of the worst units. She just jumps around and dies. Nerfing Syndra, of course. Kog'Maw, makes sense. Kassadin, I actually thought Kassadin was a bit fine. He might just need like a minor little nerf there. Karma definitely needs a big nerf. Dragonclaw, this was an OP item because all the AP comps were so good, but they're also nerfing it because it's very comparable to Spirit Visage. And they said in a tweet that that's one of the major reasons why they are nerfing Dragonclaw. 17 augments are being nerfed, and then they're also reworking Assassin's Toolkit and Hunting Frenzy, previously called Endless Hunt. So going down a bit, they have the rotating shop, they have these little Blitzcrank things, they have Chibi Gwen, the new arena, Misfortune, and now onto the system changes. Golems, all their augments were so strong, so it makes complete sense that they are going to be nerfing Golems. The AD is going to be reduced from 65 to 55, health 600 to 550, and then the ability damage is going to be nerfed at 1 and 2 star. It upgrades as you advance in the stages, so the late game Golem's still going to be very strong. That's where I find it actually does the most when I take the carry now. It's still decent in the early game, of course, but I find late game is where it actually like leads my damage chart sometimes. Now onto large changes. We have Blaster damage amp being bumped up at all stages, so at 2 Blaster, 4 Blaster, and 6 Blaster, and then damage amp after cast is going to be increased at 4 Blaster just by a little bit. This is actually like a pretty big buff. In the first part, Blasters were kind of forgotten about. Fairy Crown is going to be increased at 4 and 6 Fairy, and then the Fairy 6 Queensguard armor healing and shielding is going to be bumped up by 5%. No one really went deep into Fairy, so this makes complete sense. Queensguard armor health being bumped up by 50. Queensguard armor healing from Queen's damage is 12 to 15%. And then now onto Frost, one of my favorite comps. They're buffing it, I believe it's across the board. So every single Frost threshold is going to be bumped up a bit. I really like taking this with Frosty Frontline. It was already really strong, so when you get that, it's going to be even stronger now. Plus, I hear they are going to be buffing Varus. Preserver healing, well, I guess you got the Blaster damage amp over here, but Preserver healing, this one should be nerfed a bit. Preservers were so strong, especially in the Wukong comp. Healing reduce, mana reduce, and then Preserver ticks while a unit is mana locked will now grant that mana after the mana lock ends, so that's a little quality of life change like that. But overall, still going to be a nerf when they're hitting everything else about it. Actually, for the mana game, they're only reducing it for 4 and 5 Preserver. 2 and 3 are going to remain untouched, but the healing is pretty much at every point in the Preserver thing. So next up we have is Scholar. 3, 5, 10 going to be changed to 3, 6, 12. 4 Scholar should be a bit better, same with 6 Scholar. 4 Scholar should be pretty viable if they are buffing Ryze too. We'll have to see what the buffs are. I want to go over all the changes first before making any judgments, because Ryze was pretty bad before. Warrior damage amp 10, 18, 25 being changed to 10, 20, and 30%. Omnivamp 10, 18, 25 to 10, 20, 30. So they're really just buffing 4 and 6 Warrior. Makes complete sense. 2 Warrior was always fine. The Fiora Gwen combo was always very deadly, but now maybe you want to get a Warrior spat. Maybe you want to add in a Katarina or maybe an Akali later in the game, depending on what traits you're running. That should be pretty fun to try out. Units tier 1, Seraphine mana 10 and 70 to 10 and 60. Soraka ability damage is going to be bumped up across the board. And then Warwick's ability damage 50% AD to 55, 55, and 65. I thought Warwick was fine. You really just need the Corrupted Scepter on him, but maybe they want him viable without the Corrupted Scepter as well. At the same time, it wasn't like completely bonkers with Corrupted Scepter, so I guess Warwick needed a little bit more of a bump. But of course, these two, complete awful. You want to be able to one-cost reroll mages with Seraphine and Soraka, and that just wasn't possible in the previous patch. I mean, it was, but you just go minus 50 LP. So possible and usable, two different words, you know? Now let's go on to 2 costs. Ahri ability magic damage is being bumped up at 1, 2, and 3 star. True damage, same thing. I actually thought Ahri was perfectly fine in the Zoe comp. Obviously, like, she isn't the best thing ever, but she always out damaged Zoe in the late game as long as you get 3 good items on Ahri. But obviously in the early game, you rely on Zoe a lot more. You don't really care too much about Ahri. But I guess since they gave her a $500 legendary skin, you might as well just buff her up a little bit. Galio ability damage reduction, 15, 20, 25% AP is being changed to 20, 25, and 30%. I don't really think he needed a buff, but like he was pretty strong in the Syndra comps. But obviously they're nerfing Syndra, so maybe they want him viable in other comps still. Kassadin ability stacking damage, 35, 50, 80, 30, 45, 70. And then his ability shields also getting nerfed, 300 to 260, 335 to 285, and 370 to 310. The shield is actually like a decent size nerf. I don't really think Kassadin's damage was that bad. His shielding was what really got him. So this is a pretty sizable nerf, I would say. Is he still going to be viable? Probably. He already wasn't like that great in the previous patch, but that was only because Syndra was just so much better than Kassadin, and then Kog'Maw counters the Kassadin comp because it's just really high single target damage against like a drain tank. So maybe since Kog'Maw's getting nerfed, Kassadin needs to be nerfed as well. We'll have to see. I thought, like, obviously if you get a great spot for Kassadin, he's going to do well, but he really falls off a cliff in the late game. So we'll have to see if he's actually still playable after this. I'm leaning towards no. Kog'Maw's ability damage is going to be just reduced a tad. Shyvana ability damage is going to be buffed up a decent amount. Actually, she's kind of being changed. She's going to have 35, 50, 75% AP being changed to 45, 65, and 100, but then nerfing the bonus HP from 1.5 to 1%. Did they say anything about this here? Let's look at Shyvana. They don't really talk about Shyvana here. They just talk about Kassadin and Syndra. But Syndra's ability total cast time is going to be changed from 0.3 seconds to 1 second. Let's see what they have here. They tell us to read this. Okay, this Syndra section is going to get technical. Syndra was released far too strong, making the S tier the Syndra tier. However, her power remained high after we nerfed her in an A patch done the day before the set goes live, with her most successful builds being purely attack speed focus plus Spirit Shojin. Attack speed is so strong on her because her current cast animation times take 1.5 seconds, but she's able to start attacking 0.3 seconds into the animation. We're adjusting her attack lockout, so she'll have to wait 1 full second before resuming her basic attacks. This, alongside a nerf to her abilities damage and bonus damage of the additional rifts, should keep her power ceiling in check. So typically when a comp dominates this hard, they normally gut it into the ground. The reason why is because if they go too light on the nerfs, and let's say there's like a 10% chance it's still too strong, people are gonna rip them a new one, you know? So they always go overboard on it to drop it down from 10% to maybe like 1%. I'm making up these percentages, but they just don't even want to chance it. So that's why they typically nerf something that strong into the ground, because they don't even want any chance for the unit to dominate in the next patch. But ability rift bonus damage 35% to 30%, ability damage 225, 340, 520 to 205, 310, 480. And then ability adjacent damage 110, 170, 260 to 100, 150, 235. So honestly, like, she was very strong. Like 5 people would go for Syndra. Syndra 2-star would just absolutely dominate. Maybe they should have touched mainly the 2-star Syndra, kind of leave the other ones kind of the same, and then maybe reduce the scaling a bit. Obviously, the cast time makes a lot of sense. It shouldn't be an attack speed build on Syndra. She's a mage after all, or like a caster. Casters aren't really known for their attack speed, so I'm all for the first change. Bonus rift, like a slight touch on the scaling, but then maybe focus on the 2-star a bit more, maybe leave the 3-star alone. Because I feel like if 3-star Syndra's not viable at all in the next patch, that'd be kind of bad. You just like see a wasted unit in your shop every time you roll past her. But it is hard to judge because she was very, 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 very OP. Like, we can't get around that, right? Like 5 people would go for her every game. They'd average like a 3.0 or something like that. And yeah, it just wasn't very fun to kind of deal with. But next one up we have is units tier 3. Katarina ability damage is going to be bumped up a little bit. 3-star actually gets bumped up quite a bit. 1 and 2-star just a tad though. So some friend told me like a great quote about Katarina. He said he saw Katarina jump to the backline and took 3 casts before it killed the backliner. And I thought that was so funny because obviously if you jump to the back, you should probably kill them in maybe 2 casts. Like 1 cast, that means you're a bit OP, or like you're 3-star and they're 2-star. But 2 casts seems pretty fair, right? Like, and you're life stealing a bit. before and above cast, like the game ends at that point. So it was pretty useless before. Hopefully she's able to kill stuff in the back line now. Fairies also got buffed a bit. Warriors got buffed too. So maybe there's like a 6 warrior Katarina build where she just completely smurfs it in the back. Hopefully that is possible. Units tier 4. Karma ability no longer heals adjacent allies when an enemy dies. I didn't even know she healed. That's just how OP Karma is. But I guess leaving the damage is fine because they want to keep her as the red buff Morello type of champion, which is fair. But yeah, she did enough damage without the healing. I didn't even know she healed. Perhaps I did not watch the Bunny Muffins Set 12 preview video. Rise ability damage 80, 120, 300% AP to 85, 130, and 300. Varus ability cast time 2.5 to 1.5. Yeah, Varus when he casts, it takes so long. But honestly, I did pretty decently with the Frost and Pyro build last patch, despite it considered being bad. I might have averaged like a 4.5 on it. I'm not sure on the exact stats, but it was not that bad, but it definitely wasn't that good, especially since I only played it from like really good spots and uncontested. So yeah, Varus does need the buff, but he was kind of slept on in my opinion. It's a very fun comp, especially if you get a spatula. I expect a lot of people to go the Varus comp, either Pyro or Frost and Pyro in the next patch because Blaster got a buff, Frost got a buff, and Varus got a huge buff with this little cast time change over here. Units tier 5, Briar 60 to 65 AD. Yeah, I don't think you need to touch Briar that much. I've seen 2-star Briar completely take over games, especially when you feed her. But then I noticed that when you don't have that, you just don't feed her at all. Even if you have 6 Shapeshifter, I've noticed some top players doing that. And I was like, that can't be right? Probably needs a buff if that's the case. But they probably want to be careful and not make it too strong because obviously like a 2-star Briar that's constantly fed should just like solo a lot of games and you don't want that either. So I'm all for this like delicate small to medium sized buff to Briar and hopefully that will be good enough. Now they're removing some augments, Arcane Conduit, Draconic Mastery, and On the House. That's fair. There aren't enough Arcane and Dragon units. And then On the House, no one took it. I'm not going to miss these at all. Augment Silver. Beggars can be choosers, 4 to 7 gold. Yeah, no one took this. Find Your Center, 10 to 15. Find Your Setter is no longer offered on 2-1. Item Collector needs a huge nerf. All the item collectors do, not just Item Collector 1, but 10 to 5 HP for held item. Keepers, yeah, it was a bit OP. If you ever want to do a data check, go to teamfight.lol, go to stats, then augments, and then that's pretty much what they do with a lot of the augments. We'll go to like Diamond for now. That's where we have a lot more games. And then if you type in, what was it, like Find Your Center, 5.11, yeah, no one's taken that. Keepers, definitely very strong, 4.3. But you'll find that pretty much every augment is kind of just balanced around that. 1, 2s, 3s, 1 cost champions being changed from 3 to 2. Restart mission for 2-star 2 cost, you get 3 now instead of just 2. Oh, that actually sounds pretty decent. Restart mission now properly states that champions are removed rather than sold. Oh, wait, what? They get rid of them? I thought they sold them. I guess it's because I read the tooltip and it's just wrong. Row rejuvenation, base omnivamp 7 to 8%. Gold augments, avenge the fallen bonus stats. I've never taken this. Maybe I take it now, 15 to 18. Built Different 2 is now exclusive with 2 Tanky. I thought that was already the case. Caramelized Comfort, health per item component 50 to 60. Caramelized Comfort, gold drop chance per item component 8 to 10%. Clockwork Accelerator, buff frequency every 4 seconds to every 3 seconds. This was a completely awful dog crap augment, so hopefully it's clickable now. Endless Hunt has been renamed to Hunting Frenzy, and then your hunters execute enemies below 12% health and gain 10% attack speed. Gain a Twitch and a Kog'Maw. Ooh, that's pretty nice. Eternal Growth, immediately gain 100 health being changed to 60. Yeah, this one was pretty nice. Explosive Growth Plus, 11 XP compared to 10. Fast Forward, attack speed 25% to 40%. Wait a minute, that seems like a lot. Fast Forward was the Chrono augment where after casting an ability, Chronomancers gain attack speed and Omnivamp. But I guess no one goes Chrono, so yeah, I sure buff that. Fortune Favors the Bold. This was a completely OP augment. You just open Fort in the early game, get like a 7+ loss streak, cash out. So they're nerfing that by 10%. Fortune Favors the Bold. Some 13 to 14 loss cash outs are improved. Pretty much like the middle ones were too strong for how much life you had to lose. But yeah, they want to make it fun, so the later ones are still good. Flexible bonus emblems. Every stage start is being changed to the next 3 stages. I think this is actually pretty weak now. For a gold augment, getting 3 emblems, and it's kind of like in a delayed format, doesn't feel as good as like a Wandering Trainer, in my opinion, because when you take Wandering Trainer, you get 2 of them right away. You could plan around it and hopefully be good to go from there. When you take Flexible, like, yeah, you could reforge them, but you don't get reforgers that often, right? You get them sometimes and then it goes into something random. You can't really rely on that. But the bonus is that you could put them on champions, which benefit a lot more than the random golem that you get. It was 2 OP before, but I would have liked to see maybe like 4 stages. Maybe the ones in like stage 6 wasn't really necessary. So this one, it gives you 3 of them. So you get 1 in stage 2. Wait a minute, is this 4 or 3? Because if you get 1 right away and then you get 1 also in the next 3 stages, that's 4 of them. Okay, I think 4 is a good number, whatever the case for that is. Do they talk about it here? They don't really talk about it. So I guess we'll have to see in game how many it actually gives, because the wording here is a bit tricky, because start in the next 3 stages, it could also include right now or not include right now, but maybe my IQ is just too low to comprehend this tooltip. But they also get tooltips wrong, such as one of the ones we read earlier, this one. All right, next one up we have is going to be high horsepower. This one was averaging like a 5.9 or something like that. It was pretty bad. Bonus attack speed being changed from 100% to 150. Ability damage 235 to 300. It should be viable now. You want all these 1-cost hero augments to be at around like a 4.6 or something like that, because in lower levels these are just really OP. So if they're any better than that at lower levels, they're going to be at like a 4.0. So if at like a high level play, it's going to be at like a 4.6, 4.7. That should be like a balanced state in my opinion. Higher education, scholar mana spend 100 to 80, attack speed 10 to 12%, item collector 2, yeah, OP also 15 to 10, keepers 260 to 240, molten caramel, this one was awful, 190 to 200, 15% to 20%. That's a lot of omnivamp. Like, obviously the damage didn't increase that much, but this is a ton of omnivamp, like 5 omnivamp. How much does Bloodthirster give? I think Bloodthirster gives around like 20% or something like that, so that's very good. Pilfer gold granted 4 to 0, completely broken econ augment. It might be balanced at this point. Practice partners, mage mana gain 4 to 5, press the attack 5.5% HP to 5%, row rejuvenation 9 to 10, school mascot, completely broken augment, no longer has Rabadon's death cap at 5 and 7 eldritch, bonus health 5 to 10%, bonus ability power 10 to 30%. What did they say about it here? We're making some adjustments to the buffs the Eldritch summon gets with School Mascot that will result in a net nerf for the augment. Your summon will no longer be crowned with a death cap and will instead have slightly better stats. This should make 3 Eldritch stronger, while 5 and 7 should be net weaker. Okay, yeah, so overall, that's a decent nerf, because obviously if you take an Eldritch emblem, you want to make the later stages of it to make more use of it. So it was OP, so the nerf does make sense. Spellblades, completely OP also, but it could be meta dependent. It was really good on Zoe, really good on Syndra, but since Syndra is nerfed, maybe it's not going to be as good. Also good on Karma. Karma also nerfed, 175 to 150. Support Golem is no longer offered on 2-1. Sweet Tooth, bonus health 200 to 100. Three's a Crowd, bonus health 66 to 75. Trait Tracker is now exclusive with Flexible. 2 Healthy, bonus health 90 to 80. Really good in the Cogmal comp. Witchy Wallop 80 to 85. Time between wallops being changed from 0.25 to 0.15, and then worth the wait, round delay 4 to 2. Yeah, worth the wait was pretty bad. Now you don't have to wait as long. Prismatic augments, anger issues, armor and MR being increased to 25 to 30. Anger issues is the one which gives you all the rage blades, and it was pretty bad even in comps that really like rage blades, so I'm more than happy with this. Might even need a little bit more, dare I say. Assassin's Toolbox rework now grants a Prowler's Claw and an Infinity Edge immediately. So great for jumping to the backline and critting everyone. At what cost? 16 XP to 8. This is another typo. It says it gives 0, but it gave 16 before, but now it's being changed to giving 8. Dark Alley dealings, round delay 5 to 3. Giant and Mighty 325 to 300. Immovable object. This was a completely bonkers augment. I love this one so much, but it's getting nerfed from 70% to 60%. Prismatic ticket free reroll chance 50% to 45%. So this one has always rotated between 50% and 45% throughout the last couple of sets, and at 50% it's always been too strong, at 45% it's always been too weak. But in this particular set where we have charms and rolling is more encouraged and reroll is a bit better, 45% might actually be the balanced state, dare I say it. This might be the first time Prismatic Ticket is going to be like not going to feel too strong or too weak, just because of the way charms work and because rerolls are so strong. So this could be the sweet spot. Prismatic Ticket is also no longer offered on 4-2. Support Golem no longer offered on 2-1. And then What the Forge, health per artifact 110 to 220. Yeah, you need a big benefit to take What the Forge because like you don't get any shred or sunder effects when you take What the Forge, so it's a bit risky to get. You have to take like a lot of units that don't really rely on it, which aren't very many, or you do like mixed damage. So you need like a big incentive to take What the Forge in my opinion, such as having like too many items that it doesn't matter and the bonuses that you get outweigh like not having key items, or just getting like so much more health where it's like too good, right? Items, Dragonclaw healing is being changed from 5% per 2 seconds to 2.5%. I think this is going to be a weak item. It might be nerfing it a bit too much, but they said like it's too close to Anima Visage. So essentially what's going to happen is, unless it's another really heavy AP meta, I don't think Dragonclaw is going to be that good, but obviously you still build it because you still need defensive items and you don't really pick and choose your defensive items as diligently as your offensive items. Artifact support and radiant items, Blacksmith's gloves, health 300 to 200, Mogul's mail 200 to 150. Yeah, this one is so good. All the Shimmer Scale augments are so good because Mogul Mails is so good. It just farms way too much gold. It might need to be nerfed a bit more in my opinion. Needlessly big gem, damage amp 10 to 5%, max damage 25 to 20, Dragon's Will, Radiant, max health 18% to 15%. Now onto charms. All right, they have new charms. It's called Copycat. 1 gold, get a 1-star copy of the first enemy unit to die next combat. So this is mostly like a break-even augment at stage 2 and 3. I don't really think it's that good then. There's a chance to get like a 3 gold unit, but most of the time you're probably going to get 1 gold, right? I'd consider this similar to like Minor Gambit, but it seems like a little bit better than break-even. Stage 5 plus, Spawn Swarm, 4 gold. Next combat, your first 2 front row units spawn a Voidling after death. Probably pretty decent. Ironclad Spirit, 1 gold. Next combat, your team gains 30 armor. Mystic Spirit, gain 30 magic resist. Both very usable. I'd probably take those depending on who I'm facing. Back row star costs 5 gold, is being changed to 2 gold. Desperate Plea has been removed, thank God. This was actually really fun. It created a lot of high highs, but very low lows. So I guess if you want fewer people to quit the game, you should remove this. But at the same time, when you do this and you get +2 placements, it's probably one of the best feelings in the world. Yeah, I don't know. Part of me wants it, part of me wants it removed. It depends which day it is, you know? Enhanced cost, 2 gold to 1 gold, gear swap removed. Why are they removing that? That's the one that gave, I think, like Reforger and Remover temporarily. Minor Gambit, gold for winning 2 to 3. Phantom Emblem, 8 to 6. I actually really like this one a ton. You pretty much get a free win if you're going a vertical trait and you have the extra unit. Shivanate is now offered on stage 2-3, was 3-4 before. Makes sense. I don't think this was great on later stages because you have too many items built. It's really good when you don't have a lot of items because each component turns into a static shiv. Summon Dragon, 450 to 405 AD, still very good. The Star Ascendant costs 5 to 7 gold. Tinker costs 1 gold, is now being changed to 0. Tinker now offered from stage 2 and onward. So that's why they removed Gear Swap, because Tinker is pretty much the same thing. Treasure Party costs 8 to 6 gold. And then now onto small changes. Bastion is getting a bit of a buff in the later Bastions. 6 and 8 Bastion get 5 and 10 bonus armor and MR. Chrono time stop from 4 Chrono is now resisted with CC immunity. Units, Jace. Let's see what's happening to Jace. He is being buffed at 3-star. Okay, sure. No one's gonna reroll him anyways, but I guess if you get him, it does increase like your portal bonus. The portal trait is based on like how many stars you have. Lilia, 50 to 110 being changed to 40 to 100. That's a nice buff. Galio ability damage reduction, 15, 20, 25 being changed to 20, 25, 30. I thought they already talked about this. Wukong ability shield, it's getting buffed? No way. Okay, so 1-star Wukong getting buffed, 2-star Wukong getting buffed, but 3-star staying the same. I feel like Wukong is way too broken, but I guess since Preservers are getting nerfed, which was the best trait to play with them, maybe it's fine. Tom Kench health, 1050 to 1100. Yeah, I find that Tom Kenches sometimes don't cast, so hopefully this helps. Augments, Bastion Crown, Champions granted, Nunu to Shen, Blaster, Tristana to Ezreal, so those are 2 buffs there. Blossoming Lotus 1 and 2 no longer appear at stage 2-1. Great, because this is awful at that point. Scholar Crown, Champion granted Ari to Bard. Scholar Crown item granted Guardbreaker to Spear of Shojin. You don't really want the Spear of Shojin though. Like, it's not that great of an item in Scholar because it kind of does the same thing, but I guess it's not bad in some cases. Vertically inclined damage amp, 8 to 16% being changed to 9 to 18%. Vertically inclined no longer appears at stage 2-1, makes complete sense. And now onto hyper roll. Dummies and golems level up 1 stage later. The carry now. Golem augment stat multipliers adjusted to power up later. Frost Soldier's bonus health scaling is now lower in hyper roll, 200 to 110 per stage. All That Shimmers Plus is no longer available. A Golden Quest is no longer available. Yeah, makes complete sense. This is awful in Hyperroll, right? An Upgraded Adventure also no longer available. Now onto the bug fixes. Whoa, pretty decently sized section. Multiple augments have had their descriptions updated to use a new damage amp stat. Fixed cases where Gwen could fail to cast and then be stuck for several seconds. I have actually encountered this a couple times. Callista no longer throws extra spears on her first target each combat. And then portal effects no longer miss when an allied Krug is the only unit alive. Too tiny. Ranged units with tiny but deadly no longer fail to attack each other. Placing Thieves' Gloves on a unit with a champion augment no longer removes a buff from them. Accomplice's Gloves now correctly counts as 2.5 items for the purpose of the strongest unit. And then I'm guessing they should also do this with all the other gloves. I have had, you know, the charm that's like, give a unit with 3 items 500 health or whatever, or like whatever that is. I forget the exact numbers. Like, it goes on my TG person pretty often. The cat's out of the bag. Yumi can no longer spawn on the enemy side of the board and eat the unit in that slot. Yeah, some people would bug out Yumi and have her, like, you can't walk on Yumi's square where she starts on, so you could like block enemies with this. So they're fixing that now though. Yumi now correctly attaches to a new unit on combat start if her host was sold. Fix a bug where frost statues could fail to spawn or spawn with incorrect health. Sneaky, the assassinate charm now properly shows a stealth effect on the unit that will leap during combat. Oh, that helps a lot. Yeah, I hated guessing which unit got it. Bunch of Belts charm now properly makes champions larger when they're equipped with the effects of Giant's Belt. And then Overachiever's Portal will now properly show all charms a stage earlier than normally possible. Not sure if I'd label this one a fix, but it was a bug in Hyperroll. Scuttlepuddle Scuttles on stage 8 are no longer massive. So overall, like, obviously the big changes are the Syndra nerfs, Karma being touched a bit too. All the augments, I'd say like most of the augment changes make a ton of sense, but I'm really looking forward to playing a lot of Varus in this patch. I feel like Varus is going to be very broken with the Blaster buff, the Frost buff. He might be the new best forecast. Rise, I'm not too sure about. He should obviously be a bit better, but maybe he's only going to be better because everything else got nerfed. That's possible also. But I'm going to be updating the meta snapshot on Friday as we do every single week. So definitely look out for that on bunnymuffins.lol/meta when you get a chance. This patch does come out tomorrow on August 14th, wherever you are. But I'm thinking whatever happens here, like, it's going to be a big change from whatever we were just playing, because Syndra getting the huge nerfs every single time. We're probably not going to be seeing much of her because they were pretty big. But I'm guessing we're going to be seeing a lot of Varus. Fiora and Gwen comps maybe get a bit better if you do like a 4 warrior. I'm hoping that comes into play a bit. Karma should still be fine. Cassidy I think might be a little weak, but maybe I'm wrong. Kog'Maw probably still fine. But I guess those are my preliminary predictions right now. But let me know what you think about this patch down in the comments below. Did they get everything right? Did they get everything wrong? Maybe just a little bit somewhere in between. But also let me know what comps you are looking most forward to playing. For me, again, it's going to be the Varus comp with Frost and Pyro. I think that it's just such a cool comp because they use every type of item and all their synergies match up really nicely. So I'm going to be doing that a lot in the next patch. But that's going to be it for me today. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time.